everything you believe about Elden Ring's world is a lie. And that's not an accident. Stop. Before you scroll away, answer this. Why does grace guide you? Not mechanically, lore-wise. Why does this golden light point you forward? Who decided where it points? And what happens to the places it refuses to illuminate? You've been playing Elden Ring, following that light, trusting the Erdtree's glow, accepting that death is temporary and order is natural. But none of that is true. It's just what you've been taught to believe. The world presents itself as orderly. Trees glow. Grace points the way forward. Death, when it comes, feels temporary, almost administrative. You fall, you return, and the land pretends. Nothing. Fundamental has changed. This surface calm is not accidental. It is maintained. In the lands between, reality is not governed by what is true, but by what is allowed to persist. Certain forces are elevated, others are sealed away, not because they are weaker, but because they are disruptive. The result is a world that functions smoothly so long as no one asks the wrong questions. Why do bodies linger? Why do spirits wander? Why are some deaths final while others are quietly undone? The Golden Order does not demand understanding. It demands participation. You live inside it, benefit from it, and inherit its assumptions, without ever being told they are assumptions at all. History feels settled, meaning feels stable, and instability, when it appears, is treated as an error rather than a revelation. But beneath the glow, beneath the rituals and symbols, there is a quieter tension, a sense that something essential has been edited out, that the version of the world you are permitted to see is not the complete one, and that this omission is doing more work than any law ever could. The cost of this arrangement is easy to miss because it is paid slowly over generations. Think about what you've experienced in this game. Really think about it. When belief replaces truth, the world becomes predictable but fragile. People stop asking what something is and instead learn what it is supposed to mean. Death is no longer an ending to be understood, only a malfunction to be corrected. History is no longer a record of what happened, but a story of what must have happened for the present order to feel justified. This is why cracks in the system are treated as threats rather than warnings. Those who exist outside the accepted structure are not debated, they are erased. You've seen this. The Omen are imprisoned beneath Lendl. The dead who refuse to fade are hidden underground in catacombs. Entire forms of flame, burial, and remembrance are labeled impure, not because they fail, but because they remember something older than the story being told. When truth is displaced like this, violence becomes easier. Not because rulers are cruel, but because the system no longer recognizes certain lives as fully real. If something contradicts the order, it is defined as a mistake. And mistakes do not require mercy, only correction. This is the quiet danger at the heart of the Golden Order. It does not rule through constant force. It rules by teaching the world what to believe about itself until alternatives feel unthinkable. Think about how often the game tells you something is heretical or forbidden, not wrong, not harmful, just outside the acceptable narrative. That's not morality, that's narrative control. Before we part, the Golden Order grows through faith, and this archive is still young. If you'd like to walk alongside it, one quiet gesture is enough. You have my thanks. Sincerely, order in this world is not born naturally, it is installed. Long before the current age, the lands between already knew death, decay, and competing powers. Fire burned without sanction. Bodies returned to the earth without promise. Spirits lingered because they had nowhere else to go. None of this was framed as a problem. It was simply how existence functioned. The Golden Order reframes all of that by redefining what counts as normal. Life is no longer cyclical, but vertical, oriented toward the Erdtree. Death is no longer a transition, but a disruption. Meaning flows downward from a single source, and anything that does not align is treated as a remnant of a lesser age. This is not conquest through armies alone. It is conquest through categorization. Law becomes the primary tool, not law as justice, but law as structure. To be lawful is to be legible. To be illegible is to be dangerous. This is why so much of the world is reorganized rather than destroyed. Burial practices are standardized. Rituals are rewritten. Even memory is guided, preserved only insofar as it supports the current configuration of reality. You've walked through those catacombs. You've seen how uniform they are. Same architecture, same layout, same roots reaching down. That's not tradition, that's standardization. At the center of this system stands Marika, not as a distant symbol, but as an active agent of definition. Her role is not merely to rule, but to authorize what the world is allowed to be. The order does not emerge despite her interventions. It emerges through them, and this distinction matters. Because once order is understood as something authored rather than discovered, its permanence becomes an illusion. What was made can be unmade. What was defined can be redefined. The stability of the golden order is real, but it is not natural. It is maintained constantly by choice. When destined death is removed from the world, it is not framed as theft. It is framed as refinement. Mortality becomes an inefficiency, an unacceptable variable in an otherwise perfect system. By sealing death away, the golden order does not eliminate endings so much as it rebrands them. Things no longer die because they have reached a conclusion. They fail because something has gone wrong. This single change restructures everything beneath it. Bodies persist. Spirits struggle to find release. Burial is no longer about return, but about containment and guidance. The Erd Tree does not merely honor the dead, it absorbs them, promising continuity instead of closure. In doing so, it teaches the living what to expect from existence. You do not pass on, you are processed. This is where belief becomes essential. A world without true death should feel unnatural, but the order ensures it does not. Ritual replaces understanding. Grace replaces explanation. So long as the system works, its cost remains abstract. People accept undeath, stagnation, and repetition as normal, because they are told these states are blessings. Those who fall outside this framework reveal the strain. Deathroot spreads, where the sealed concept of death leaks back into reality, and those touched by it do not die correctly. They expose the contradiction the order is built on. Death still exists, but it has been denied a lawful form. Rather than confront this, the system labels it corruption. You fought those who live in death. The game frames them as enemies, as mistakes, as corruption, but they're not corrupted. They're just what happens when the official story breaks down. The Golden Order survives not by solving this problem, but by teaching the world to look away from it. As long as death is treated as an error rather than a truth, the structure holds. Stability is preserved, even as reality quietly resists. What keeps this system intact is not blind faith, but study. The Golden Order does not rely solely on myth or reverence. It is examined, formalized, and corrected. This is where fundamentalism enters, not as rebellion, but as maintenance. Its purpose is not to discover new truths, but to reconcile contradictions without destabilizing the structure that depends on them. Incantations associated with this school speak plainly about causality and regression. Every effect has a cause. Every deviation can be traced backward and resolved. On the surface, this looks like honesty, even humility, a willingness to admit flaws. But the scope of these laws is carefully bounded. Regression reveals hidden truths, only insofar as they can be reintegrated. Anything that cannot be reconciled is dismissed as error, impurity, or blasphemy. This turns truth into a technical problem rather than a moral one. If something does not fit, the question is never whether the system is wrong, but how the anomaly occurred. Responsibility shifts away from the order and onto the world itself. Reality is expected to comply. Radagon embodies this logic. He does not create the Golden Order, but he perfects its language. Where earlier authority asserted meaning, he defines it. Where belief once filled gaps, he supplies equations. The result is a doctrine that feels unassailable not because it is correct, but because it is internally consistent. Contradictions are not denied. They are neutralized. This is why law of regression is so revealing. It promises to uncover truths, yet its ultimate function is restorative, to pull things back into alignment, to undo deviation. Knowledge, in this framework, is not liberating, it is corrective. You are allowed to see beneath the surface only long enough to return to it with renewed confidence. The danger here is subtle. A system that can absorb its own criticism becomes extremely resilient. Doubt no longer threatens belief, it reinforces it. Those who question are not silenced outright. They are answered, categorized, and redirected until their questions lose their force. In this way, the golden order evolves, not toward greater truth, but toward greater control over what truth is permitted to mean. It does not fear contradiction. It trains itself to survive it. In the catacombs beneath the Erd Tree, the dead are arranged with care. Bodies are laid into roots, carved into walls, guided into a system that promises return rather than rest. These spaces are not tombs in the older sense. They are infrastructure. What matters is not who the dead were, but where they go. You've been in dozens of these. Think about how they're designed. Always sloping downward, always toward roots, always with those stone coffins positioned perfectly for absorption. Contrast this with places the order does not fully control. There, corpses linger improperly. They slump, reanimate, or refuse to fade. Spirits repeat gestures without resolution. This is not a different kind of death. It is the same death, denied its sanctioned pathway. The difference is ideological, not metaphysical. One form of death is remembered as sacred circulation. The other is remembered as failure. The catacombs quietly teach this lesson without words. If you die correctly, you are absorbed. If you do not, you become a problem. Up to this point, the Golden Order can be understood as a remarkably effective machine. It edits reality, absorbs dissent, and trains its inhabitants to accept its version of the world as natural. Even its flaws are managed. Even its contradictions are given language and law. From the inside, it feels permanent, but permanence depends on authorship. Systems like this do not sustain themselves. They require intervention, revision, and at times, decisive rupture. And that is where the story shifts from maintenance to intent. The shattering of the Elden Ring is often treated as madness, grief, or betrayal. But seen through the structure of belief, it reads differently. It is not the rejection of order, but the exposure of it. A moment where the fiction of inevitability collapses, revealing that the world has been shaped by choice all along. This is the point where Marika re-enters the frame, not as a distant god, but as the architect of that revelation. By breaking the mechanism that sustained belief, she forces truth back into the open, unfiltered, and unstable. The result is not liberation, it is fragmentation. Without a single enforced narrative, belief splinters. Each demigod clings to a fragment of authority and mistakes it for wholeness. The wars that follow are not merely for power. They are competing attempts to define reality itself. The Golden Order does not fail because it is overthrown. It fails because its author withdraws, and the world is left to confront truths it was never taught how to live with. What follows the shattering is not chaos, in the simple sense. It is vacuum. The force that once decided what counted as real is suddenly absent, and the world reacts the way it always does when belief loses its anchor. It fragments. Each demigod inherits a great rune, but what they truly inherit is interpretation, a partial truth mistaken for completeness. Order does not disappear, it multiplies. Competing visions harden into territory, doctrine, and war. The lands between become a map of unresolved beliefs colliding with one another. This is where the consequences of replacing truth with belief fully surface. Without a shared framework, violence escalates not because anyone is malicious, but because no one can yield. To yield would be to admit that one's version of reality is incomplete. So battles are fought not just over land, but over meaning, whose law explains the world, whose suffering is justified. Shadow of the Erd Tree sharpens this collapse rather than softening it. In the land of shadow, the costs that were once buried are preserved. Death is not deferred or processed, it is endured. Rituals are not refined, they are raw. The crusade carried out there does not correct belief. It enforces it through eradication. Cultures are not defeated because they are false, but because they refuse to forget. This reveals the final failure of the Golden Order. Belief can maintain stability, but it cannot resolve what it suppresses. When the structure breaks, everything it excluded returns at once. The world is not unmade by truth. It is overwhelmed by the weight of truths it was never allowed to integrate. What remains after belief collapses is not clarity, but exposure. The systems that once softened existence no longer function, and the world is forced to confront the conditions they were designed to obscure. Death resumes its weight. History reasserts its fractures. Suffering no longer arrives with explanation attached. This is not a return to an earlier, purer age. Too much has been altered for that. The lands between cannot remember how to live without mediation. They have been shaped by centuries of instruction, telling them what matters, what endures, and what can be ignored. When that instruction vanishes, the result is paralysis as much as conflict. The role Marika occupies here is not that of savior or destroyer, but of catalyst. By dismantling the framework that replaced truth with belief, she does not offer an alternative. She leaves a vacuum, and vacuums demand response. Every faction, every would-be ruler, every tarnished steps into that absence carrying their own assumptions about what the world should be. The tragedy is not that the Golden Order falls. It is that it leaves behind a population unequipped to face truth without it. Belief was never neutral, but it was functional. Its removal exposes the cost of that functionality all at once. What emerges is a world where meaning must be rebuilt without guarantees, where order, if it returns, will do so not as inheritance, but as choice. And choice, unlike belief, carries responsibility. The Golden Order was never sustained by truth. It was sustained by agreement, a shared willingness to accept a version of reality that functioned, even if it concealed as much as it revealed. For a time, that was enough. The world moved forward. Life continued. Suffering was given shape and direction. But belief cannot carry meaning forever. Eventually, it demands renewal, reinforcement, or rupture. When the structure that maintained it breaks, what returns is not an older truth waiting patiently beneath the surface. What returns is everything that was postponed. Death without ceremony, history without curation, consequences without doctrine. This is the condition the lands between are left in, not ruined but undecided. The task is no longer to restore what was lost, but to determine what deserves to replace it. Whether order should once again be imposed, or whether truth, with all its instability, is worth enduring without mediation, the story does not answer that question. It places it in your hands, not guided by certainty, but by choice. Every ending you can choose in this game is an answer to that question. Restore the order, burn it all down, embrace chaos. Become a god yourself. Create something new. But underneath all of them is the same fundamental question. If belief built the world you inherited, if everything you thought was natural was actually constructed, maintained, and enforced, what will you build when belief is no longer enough? Will you create another comfortable lie? Or will you risk the instability of truth? That's not just Elden Ring's question. That's the question it's asking you. You've been following grace this whole time. But grace is just another word for approved direction. What happens when you stop following it?